Hello. So welcome to the second week of online Intro to Film Studies class. This brief video is going to be over how to write a critical analysis. A lot of our writing so far has been reflection-based. So for each film you've watched, you've written a reflection, which over the course of the semester, I've asked for them to become more analytical and less just kind of personal response. So your final essay in the class is going to be a critical analysis paper. So I'm going to talk to you kind of broadly about what that means, and then speak very specifically about using critical literary theory to approach a text. So share the screen here. All right. So there are so many different ways to approach a text and to write academically. So again, what we've done most in this class is reflection writing, where you might provide a very brief summary of the text, but really your response is a bit more personal. You're not using other sources, you're not kind of making a strong argument necessarily. It's more of just a response to and a reflection upon a text. These often don't demand research, kind of really in-depth analysis. You can use first-person point of view, etc. For your midterm essay, you practiced doing some research to support an argument. Specifically, we were looking at how a historical era shaped a film genre of the place and time. So for your final essay, it's going to be a critical analysis. And you have likely written analysis essays before, especially in Comp 2. If you think about doing literary analysis, that is what you're practicing doing. And we're doing that just with a different kind of text, with films. So an analysis isn't a reflection. It's not just kind of a personal, off-the-cuff response. It's not a review. So when we talk about film and film reviews, and I'll provide you some guidance about that at the end of the semester as well, you're not acting as the film expert who's saying whether or not a film is good or not. That isn't kind of our role as students. An analysis essay it goes more in depth. So you're looking at the whole film, taking parts of it and considering how those parts support a larger idea. So you're looking for patterns, you're looking for symbols, the way images are used, the way the soundtrack is used. You're giving meaning to things beyond face value, so you're digging deeper. So you may see that the movie works in a certain way, the filmmaker is trying to convey something through the film, and you have to defend that through research and examples from the film. So if you think about how that would work if we were to think about a song, so looking at kind of another way in which we approach a text in a critical way, you might describe a song, say what it's about. That's summarizing. If you're evaluating it, whether it's good or not, that's a review. But if you analyze it, you're looking at how the lyrics, the melody, and the instrumentation work together to create the feeling of sadness if you're listening to a sad song. So film analysis is similar. If you're analyzing a poem or a short story or novel, again, all in kind of the same vein of taking something, taking a text, and giving it meaning beyond face value. An analytical essay is argumentative in nature. So that doesn't mean that you are kind of making an argument like you might have in your head what an argument feels and sounds like. But if you're analyzing something and giving it meaning, you are sharing an argument, kind of making a point that you need to support with evidence. So as you prepare to write, and I'm asking you to look at this and think about these ideas as we enter into our last few weeks of the course, because for your final essay, you can choose between, you can choose among The Last Picture Show, Do the Right Thing, and Jackie Brown. So your final essay, which is your final exam in this class, is going to focus on one of those films. And we'll start with those selections with The Last Picture Show this upcoming week. So I want you to be thinking and observing and taking notes during all of these films so you're prepared to write about one of them through a certain lens. So when you think about the need to develop a thesis, also known as argument, claim, we often use those words interchangeably. Think about what it is that you think the filmmaker is trying to say, what you think the film is saying, how you think something works in the film. You want to take notes and observations and details, and think about the how and why and the meaning. Again, not just what a film's about, but what it means. So the thesis will be a claim, that you're claiming that something about the film means something. So I like your book uses this acronym of TREE, that you need to have a thesis supported by reasons that rest on evidence and examples. So as you go to write an essay, if you have really strong in-depth notes about that film, whether it's dialogue, music that's used, either the score or a soundtrack of songs that are actually like kind of diegetic, we'll talk about that in the Last Picture Show, character arcs, who the protagonist is. You know, you want to have all of these notes so you're prepared to write. So you want to think about the film as a whole. Think about how everything works together, how everything works. And then these are just, again, clues on how to kind of map a film and let it give you some clues in terms of meaning. And so you can explore how everything is connected. Film technique. A lot of you are already doing this in your reflections even, talking about cinematography, lighting, color, sound design. A lot of times these things will really stand out to us and we want to explore that further. Why did the director choose this? Why is the music doing this at a certain point in time? Why is the camera focusing on this and not that? So you want to ask yourself those questions and find meaning there. As you write, again, hopefully some of this is a review. You want to have an introduction, grab your reader. You have those first couple of sentences to really, really grab your reader forcefully, paint a picture, jump right in to your argument. Don't circle the drain. Don't give a long kind of sprawling summary of the film. You can assume that your reader, when you're doing critical analysis, has an understanding of what the text is about. So you do not need to restate a summary of the film. So you have a thesis, you have an argument, then use the body of your paper to support that argument, using evidence and examples. So a lot of that might be the primary source here of the film itself. That is what I hope that you use. Quotes, observations, examples. And you can also use secondary sources. So other kind of analyses or critics' reviews. Maybe a critic pointed something out that you think is really interesting and outstanding and you want to cite that for support. Excellent. And then the conclusion ties things up and leaves your reader thinking and feeling like, yes, this is a remarkable reading of this text. So again, kind of a broad overview, probably a review. You've written essays like that before. So now I just wanted to really quickly go over this handout. Look at the handout that is up in Moodle for this week. Again, some of you might have seen this before. I use this or a version of this in Comp 2 and African American literature. So this is just a handout succinctly going over some of the most common critical literary theories, common and accessible. So using critical literary theory is kind of a high level practice in terms of approaching texts and writing about texts. But I like to do that in my courses because it helps you practice this kind of really cool technique of looking at a text through a certain lens. So the options that you'll have to work with, the 3 films, And then you'll have 4 lenses with which you will look through one of those films. And the handout goes through them. So critical race theory, the handout gives you kind of a broad idea of the theory, some common questions to help you brainstorm, and how this approach is used, some important terminology. Marxist criticism. So critical race theory, this focuses on race. Specifically, this theory is a bit more modern, focuses on race kind of through an American perspective. The Marxist criticism, this focuses on class and how class functions in a text. Feminist criticism, this is about how gender functions in a text. And again, just some helpful questions and terminology. And then psychoanalytic criticism. And so this is how psychoanalysis and kind of psychology might focus or might function in a film. So this gets into Freud, ego, id, and superego, Oedipus complex, Carl Jung, some common questions in terms of approaching a text from those different perspectives. So you will find that these 3 films that we're about to end the semester with, each might kind of lend itself very well to one of these critical theory lenses, but I've seen students take an approach that doesn't necessarily seem like it would be the one that fits the best, and have done some really cool things with that. So what I encourage you to do in the coming week is to really fully understand what it means to do a critical analysis. Go over this handout. Think about these different ways of analyzing a text. Because if you're going to watch a film through the lens of looking for how race functions in that film and how meaning is developed about race or gender, you're going to look for specific things. You're going to look for specific dialogue, specific actions, depending upon what lens you're looking through. So you'll write a reflection of each of these 3 films. One of those reflections might kind of grow into your final essay, but I want you to be interested and intrigued by whatever it is you choose to write about for your final essay. But I want you to have kind of a firm grasp on the options at this point. So what critical analysis means, what it looks like, the critical literary theory that we're going to use to practice critical analysis of one of these 3 upcoming films. So please go over the resources and feel like you have a pretty good grasp on what that all means.